Okay, welcome back to our troll fighting game. We have our animations complete on our troll. So we've got a walk cycle, we've got an attack, and we've got a defense. So we've got three animations that we want to be able to control in game. So let's have a look at doing logic bricks. So I'm going to go to my logic editor. Now I'm going to go to object mode. So the first thing is that it's the collision box that's going to move, and we'll control that in a minute. But let's just get the input selected for these. So this is going to be it's going to be two players eventually. So I'm going to use the arrow keys for this. So I'm going to go keyboard input, up arrow, and I have an action. And what's my action? Well, it's one of these. So I think it's troll rig action, but let's go find out. So quickly swap to dope sheet, to the action editor, and it's called troll rig action. So that's the name of this 110 frame animation. Okay, oh, not dope sheet, logic editor. So I'm going to start at 1 and end at 50, and that's my walk. And this is walk, and we connect the two of them. And walk's going to have a priority of 1. No, 2 actually, because we'll have 2 other actions to go beneath it. That will be more important than it. And we want it to be loop stop. So when we lift our finger, he stops walking. Okay. Now, the other thing we want to do is I'm going to go right, and this will be my right key, and then left. Now, what I want is I don't want them to sort of be completely static while he turns. So I'm going to add 2 more AND controllers to link these here, because they're all separate inputs. I don't want to join them together, or they'll have to all be true. But I can have multiple inputs to one action. So when I enter the game now, if I go P into the game engine, let's just go into textured mode. So let's look at them. So P. Now if I press up, he walks, but if I press left, he walks, or right, he also walks. So now he'll actually be turning, from the control of this box, but that's an important, an important consideration for when we're creating the game. So we need him to use feet to move when he rotates. Okay, so now what's next? So we want to play the attack. So this is attack. We'll just use spacebar for that. And over here we'll have an action. We'll link them together, and this will be attack. And if we remember, we want a loop stop. It's the troll rig action. We started at frame 60, and I think we ended at frame 85. And we want a priority of 1 for that. We could give it a priority of, this one has a priority of 2, so 1, and then we'll give the defense a priority of 0. So it'll be the most important one. So let's do that. So 1 more keyboard input, and we'll say D. Actually, no, we'll try it. So we've got spacebar and arrow key. So we'll say it's completely unrelated. We'll say L, because it's on the right-hand side of the keyboard, which is where these controls will be. So again, back to action. We'll call this defense, and it's troll rig action, and this was 90 to 110. Priority 0. Loop stop, and we'll link them together. Okay, so let's go P in the game engine. I'm pressing forward, I'm pressing right, I'm pressing left, I'm pressing spacebar, I'm pressing L. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to set a couple of blends, so that as I move from one to the other, I don't just jump, so that there's actually okay, so that's interesting. So what we probably want, so this kind of loop stop is very suitable for a walk cycle. But what I'm actually going to say is loop end for the defense. So if I'm pressing P, I'm walking and I hit spacebar, it'll play all of that, and then I can go back to walking. And same with L, it'll defend, but it'll play the full animation, so I don't get kind of stuck with like one foot in the air in the middle of an attack. Okay, so that's all that done. So next of all, I need to look after this box here. Now if I go S and make this smaller, the character gets smaller. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my armature. I'm going to go to its properties. It's the child of the bounding box. I'm going to turn that off. Go back to my bounding box here, wherever it may be. Troll bounds, there it is. And as we did in class, I'm going to make this a little more, a little similar to the troll itself. So let's go, let's extrude this for his face, and take this and extrude this down for his body, and then, and his legs are, pretty similar there. We can scale that out a little bit because he's a little bit wider at the bottom. And that's about right there. Now I have no collision for either arm, so anything hitting the arms will pass through the arms, so the arms will not register collision detection. Now we could make a better and more accurate collision box that had a few extra pieces for the arms if we wanted, but we're just going to keep it simple for now. So that's my collision, but as you can see, in my physics for this object, I have the collision bounds set to box. So I can use convex hull and I can use triangular mesh. Now, what's the difference between all these things? Well, these are literally shapes. So a capsule, a cone. Convex hull is a very simplistic shape. It has problems with things like areas like this. So it might put collision between these 2 points here. So it's not very accurate, but it's more accurate than the other shapes. And for absolute accuracy, we use triangle mesh, which is what I'm going to use now. Triangle mesh is also the most processor intensive. So there's my triangular mesh. Now, so what's going to happen here is we've got our object here. And if we go to physics here, it has no collision. If you remember, we were in class and this didn't work for me. That's because I put a collider here, or we won't bother about it, but it has no collision, so we need to add collision. So we'll make it static. We don't want to make it dynamic because it'll try to move on its own. So it's a static object, and we don't want it to move inside this collision band. If it does, things will go badly for us. The origin of this is at the top of the club, which is excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to add collision bands, we'll add a small sphere, and then we can reduce the radius of that small sphere. So you can actually see it, it's this inner circle in here. So, make it so it's just inside the mesh there at the top of the sphere. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on show physics visualization, and then we're going to go P into the game engine, and that's what's happened. So that's interesting. So this here, so let's have a look at what's happening to this when we hit P. So interesting. So let's go down here and change this to convex hull and hit P, and it's going to sit there. Okay, so that actually looks, the convex hull looks like it's going to give me a more accurate result. This triangular mesh is interesting because it's quite new. It's only in the last, say, 6 months in Blender. So, okay. So this hasn't gone bananas. You can see that there's the white ball. Actually, let me do this. For my game engine, so I can still point at things. So I was going to click on mouse cursor. So this white ball is still here, and then we have our green this green shape here is our collision mesh. Okay, excellent. So let's put some movement on this here. So let's go keyboard input, and we use the up arrow for forward. Obviously this one's not going to play animation, this is going to actually move the object, so we're going to go motion, and it's simple motion and it's negative on Y, so we'll go minus 0.1. Now that might turn out to be too fast, but when we start playing we'll get that information. We'll close this up. Then we're going to add keyboard input left, and close that up, and add keyboard input right, and right key. Did I put in an arrow? I did, left arrow. Okay, so we've got left and right. Over here I'm going to have motion. Now if I look from the top, I want to turn, so this is positive and this is negative. So when I turn right, I want to turn positive on Z. Oops. And nearly there, motion, this will be left. And this will be negative, so minus 1 on Z. There we go. Now, let's see how that works. So we'll go into our, so P. Actually, let's turn off physics visualization for now, and let's just see the game. So I'm in the game. I can, alright, yeah, so that didn't work. Now there's one small thing missing. So this skeleton is no longer the child of this box. So Control P to object. Now P. Now the most, so I can walk forward. Now he's moving forward a little bit quickly. I am rotating, but very slowly. Okay, that's a bit faster. Oh, because one's 0.1 and one's 1, I see. Now let's do defense and see if I go, press L. Okay, so I've got a collision error when I do that, and let's hit. But I have no collision error on attack. Fantastic. Okay. So I have to fix my defense animation so that I don't have this intersecting with this box. And I need to speed up. That's 0.1, and this is 1. So this was, so I'm going to go minus 1. Okay. So now let's go back to my skeleton. Let's change this back to my dope sheet. I'm in the action editor, and it's this defense here. So it's this frame here that I need to change. So you can see that there's a huge, overlap here. So let's just go into pose mode. Let's take this guy here and take him down. Let's go in here to the hand, find that hand bone. So we'll turn on X-ray. It's that bone there. And let me turn that up that way. There's definitely no collision. Select all the bones, lock scale root. So I'm doing that. Okay. So turn off X-ray. Let's go into the game engine. So P. Oh no, I'm in pose mode. It won't work. So in object mode. So P into the game engine. Let's illuminate our world a little more. Okay. P. Okay. Now I'm going to press attack. Okay, so that's working. And then I'm going to press L for defense. And that's working too. His foot is not beautiful, but it works. So now what we want to do, just for the end of this tutorial, is I'm going to make another object here, cube, and scale it up like we did in class, and we want to get collision. So I'm going to take this object, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to make it dynamic, and I'm going to we'll leave it as a box collider. Now, so when I go P to play the game, and I turn around, I should be able to walk forward and push that. Now, if I hit spacebar, I pushed it away with the collision from the club. So let's see if we can translate that into a health score. Let's go back to the logic editor, and we'll give this a we'll call this I don't know, wall. Now, so this is a property wall. So let's go back here to my character, to my club, and I'm going to give this a little bit of logic. I'm going to say if I have a collision with an object called wall, I'm going to give myself a score. I'm going to turn on debug mode so I can see it. I'll make it an integer, so it's a score of 1. So if I collide with the object wall, what will I do? Well, I will take that property, which is score, and I'm going to add 1 to it. We link them together. So let's just talk through that again. So if I collide with something that has the property wall, add to my score of 0 a value of 1. Now up here I'm going to say show debug properties, and that will allow me to see this during the game. And just for, I think they say shits and giggles of it, I'm going to go Shift D and put that there, and I'm going to remove the property from this one. So basically when I hit this one, I get nothing. When I hit that one, I'll get 1. So let's see if we can, so P, you can see up here I've got my score of 0. I'm going to turn around this way. Yeah, I'm only turning in one axis, and I'm going to hit spacebar. And you can see I've got a score of 1. I'm going to turn around the only way I can, and I'm going to try and hit this one. And I've hit that, but you can see my score hasn't changed because it doesn't have the property wall. So that's basically how we can set up our game, and then what you need to do is, obviously you're not using these walls, you're going to have a second character, which will be, so you're going to take all of this, obviously not the lights, you can go Shift D, put this guy here, and then what we need to do with this guy is just change all the input. So it's, instead of using up arrows, it's using WS, A, and D. And then we should be able to, if you, with slight manipulation to this setup here, like its property, so this will be player 1, player 2, when I hit player 1, add score to player 2, etc. So we did that when we made Pong. You should be able to make what is a reasonable fighting game. And just before we go, here with my 2 players here, now they're both identical and I haven't changed their input, so I'll basically be animating them both together. But just to show frame rate, so if I go P and into the game, so I'm sitting on 60 frames a second, so I can have them both walk and turn and attack, and my frame rate isn't really falling below. Yeah, so it's sitting at 59 and 60. So, we could put these in a decent environment in a fighting game and not have our frame rate drop significantly. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you find this helpful and that you succeed in making your game.